Sorry, recording. All right, so basically, what we're going to be dealing with today is what we call transitions and animations. Um, that's all we're going to have for today. It's pretty simple, short, and straightforward. So basically, animations and transitions are used to add effects that make us pay more attention to objects on our web page. Basically, what this thing means is there are certain websites that you go to, for example, and then when you click on a or on an item on the page, you see that the item probably will change its shape or will move closer to the screen. I don't know if you've noticed anything like that. Let me see if I can find any website like that. I know Jumia NG. They offer something like that. Let me see if I can find anyone. Okay, this one is pretty slow. Okay, can you notice this website?
Yes.
Did you notice what it's doing? This thing is done by transitioning, and then you add properties that you want to work on, right? This is basically how it looks like. So this is what transition does. It just draws your attention and tells you, okay, this is where the cursor is focused on at the moment. When you move it away, it loses all those properties and then it goes to the next one. When you take out that the cursor focus, it goes back to the way it was, depending on however you placed it to be. So we'll start with transitions and then we'll go over to animations, because I feel animations are quite interesting, but we'll start with transitions because they're a lot more straightforward. So for this, I'll say H2 and I'll say transitions, right? Transitions, yeah. So if I open this using my live server, okay, this is what I have. I have transitions. So I'm going to basically create a box. Let me mute this so that it won't disturb my class. Okay. Alright. So I'm going to turn this on and say I'm going to have a box container, box that has something, okay, and I'm going to say box A or transition box. Let me name it something descriptive. Transition box, and then I'm just going to put A inside of it. So if we go back to, let me link this CSS so that I can have access to it. Link would be index.css. Okay, so first we're going to have our universal selector, and then I'm going to have box sizing border box. Nope, box sizing border box. Alright, and I'm going to have get rid of all the extra margins given to us by VS Code. Margin is going to be 0 pixel, and then padding will be 0 pixel. Alright, and then I'm going to go straight to the container, which is the box I'm working on. Box transition box, transition box. Alright, so I'm going to give this transition box a border, or just in fact give it a width and a height of 100 pixels and a height of 100 pixels as well. And then I made a mistake here, and then I'll say a background color. I like this color. Let's see, aquamarine. So if we go back to this is what we have, right? So there's something that I want to now do. If I want to add a transition, how transition works is it it controls the speed of like the animation, if I'll put it that way. What transition does, you can impute a property that you want, like things that you want to change in this particular object. What if probably I want to change the height, I want to change the width, I want to probably change the background color, or I want to do anything to the, probably I want to even give it a border radius or anything, but I don't want to apply it immediately. I want it to happen when this cursor moves over it. I use transition to do that. Do you get me? So I will now say this box. If you're there, please do tell me, like when I ask questions,
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
reply
ma'am.
so that I will know
Okay.
when my connection goes off. Okay, so on hover, I'll apply transition, and transition comes with so
Yes.
many. Any question?
No, 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 no.
Okay. Transition comes with different properties, like transition duration. Transition duration is how long you want the animation to last. Do you want it to last for a minute? 1 minute is extremely long. It mostly lasts for a couple of seconds, like 5 seconds, probably 0.5 seconds or 2 seconds or thereabout. And then the transition properties, one I just explained, like the things you want to change. Is it the width? Is it the height? The background color? The font size? The border radius? Anything is added to the property. Transition delay is basically how long, like how long it will take before the transition starts. Because if I add any property here and I hover on it, it will start immediately. But what if I don't want it to start immediately? What if I want it to delay for probably 2 seconds and then it starts, or 0.5 seconds and then it starts? So that's what transition delay does, right? And this transition timing function, I'm not very clear on this, but I'll get back to you later on. Okay, so let me add here um for this hover, what I want you to do is I want you to change, in fact not width, I want you to give it a border radius of 50%, a margin right of 10 pixels, and I also wanted to change the background color. Of, let me change it to something different. Okay, chocolate, right? Okay. So from here, I will now add those properties that I have here: transition duration, transition property, transition whatever. And then I'm going to say transition property. I'm going to say the border radius is what I want it to change. Or let me put it, this thing is supposed to be here. Transition property, I want it to change just the border radius. And then the transition duration is going to be for 2 seconds. And then this should be, let me work with this for now. So without the transitions, let me take this out. Okay, so without the transitions, did you notice anything? Once I hover on this, all of these things happen. Once I hover on this, all of this thing happens. So what I now want to do is I want to tell this thing to take its time. This transition, it will delay it for a bit, and the one I want it to delay is this border radius. I don't want it to turn into a circle immediately I hover on it. I want it to take its time to transition into that. So if I uncomment this at this point and then hover on this, do you see it takes time to form a circle? Did you notice it?
Yes.
It takes its time to form a circle. Even though others changes immediately. What if I want it to take time to transition into this color? I'll also add this background color here. I'll say background color of comma background background color, so that it will also take time to like make this add this color to it. So this is the way it is. If I hover on it, it takes time to transition into that color. So what transition does is basically managing the properties you want to change, how fast you want it to change, and for how long you want it to last. That's just what transition does for you. So on hover, how does it add that property for you? Do you get? And all of these things can, instead of writing all of these, probably I have a lot of things that I want to add. Maybe I want to change this font, the font size of this. Okay, the A is actually not inside the box, is it? Okay, the A is inside of the box. Maybe I say I want this font size to probably be as big as 50 pixels, and I have a lot of things, not margin right, no wonder it says no margin left, and I want all of these properties to be added. I can't start writing them one by one. So the best way for me to go about it is to just take this and replace it with all. All here means everything that is inside of this cover, this inside of this block of code. I want you to implement it in here once it hovers, and it should take a time of 2 seconds. What if I want it to take longer? I would say probably 5 seconds. And then I would say this. So it takes 5 seconds to achieve this. If it were shorter, I would say 0.5 seconds. This is 0.5. It goes back to the way it was, which is smaller, and then I'll put this. You see how fast this one is? It's a lot faster because it's just 0.5 seconds. So that is how transition works. So you can play around with it. You can change any property you want with transitions, right? So the next thing we're going to just jump into is what we call animations. I love animations because it makes it puts a kind of beauty, or it gives a kind of beauty to our web page. When you come to certain web pages, you see some things floating around, some things moving around, some things moving from here to there. Those things can be achieved with CSS, animation properties, or with JavaScript, depending on how complicated they are. But for this one, it's just going to be plain simple, and we'll see it now. So I'm going to say the same H2, and this time around it's going to be animations. This class is going to be very short, very very short. So here I'm going to have dot animation boxes, animation box, okay, and I'm going to have two boxes in here. I'm going to say box A dot box A, okay, dot box A here, and I'm going to have A inside, and I'm going to have here dot box B, dot box B. This one is a little bit more complicated than transitions. Transitions is just straightforward. Add all of these things, to the box you want to change, add the transition to the box you want to change, and then put the properties you want to change inside of the hover feature, and it happens. This thing can be replicated this way. I forgot. You can write all of these things by adding this transition. You can just have transition, and then transition. You have all. Then you have how many seconds you want it to take. 2 seconds, right? And then you take these ones out. This is just like, this one contains both the properties, the duration. You can add the timing function. These timing functions, they have what we call ease in. I said I was going to talk about it. These are the timing functions. You have ease in, ease out, ease in, ease out. These things are just like timing functions. How like smooth do you want it to go? Not fast, just how smooth the entire operation goes. That's what timing function does, I believe. And then this encompasses the properties, and this is the duration. So it's just like when you have margin right, padding, margin left, margin bottom, and margin top. You can write all of those things in one, just by using the margin property, right? And when you get margin, you can now write inside of it. You will have just like margin. I can have margin top will be 2 pixel, margin right will be 4 pixel, margin left, margin bottom can be 5 pixel, and margin left to be 2 pixels. So I can replicate this thing by writing them one by one: margin left, margin right, margin bottom. So this is the way transition is. I can decide to break it down into different properties. I'll write margin property here, margin duration, margin is our margin delay, all of those things. I can do it this way. So it's either you do it this way or you do it this way, whichever one is left for you. But I believe that is clear. So if we go back and try this thing out now, it still works just like the other one, right? Hope it's very clear.
Yes.
Okay, so that's, I will leave this one here in case you guys want to go back to it later. So the next thing I want to fix is I have an animation box, and that animation box is, I can hear the music on your background, so please try to mute it or mute yourself. Okay, so
No problem.
animation box, I have a border, of 3 pixels solid black, and then I have a height of 500 pixels and a width of the same 500 pixels, and then I have a margin of 10 pixels also. This is basically the box. So this is the box, right? So this is what I have, and then I have two boxes inside of this box. I have what I call the box A. Box A. I can decide to add this in front of it. I just have one box A. That's why I am writing this. But if I have multiple box A's inside my web page, like I decide to like tell it this is the point it to this particular box A, so that this whatever properties I'll write here will not affect any other box A. I've taught you guys that.
Yes.
So this box A is still going to have some of these properties, but this and here S. And I'm going to get rid of this border. In this case, I'll just go with the background color instead. The background color of, I want something fine. Okay, let me go with tomato. I've not used that before. And I'm going to say this would be 100 and this would be 100. Okay, so this is what I have for now. Let me walk through this one. So if we go back, this is what I have. I'm going to give this a border radius of 50, border radius of 50%, and then we have that. So how transition works is it makes use of what we call keyframes. Keyframes have this structure. Keyframe will have an animation name. Animation name is part of the properties, just like this one has. Transition has transition duration, transition property, transition timing function, transition delay. There are so many others. This one has animation name. Animation iteration counts is the number of times you want that animation to run. That's that. Then transition direction, do you want it to go the opposite direction, top, left, bottom, all of these things. Then transition animation place state, I'm not very clear on this. And animation delay is still the amount of time you would wait before the animation starts. So this is how it is being written, and this is the structure of how an animation um, um, animation CSS takes course. So let me just replicate it here. So first of all, we are going to give this a position of absolute. For animations to work, especially one that you have to move around with keyframes, it has to be on an absolute plane, right? And then this box carrying it, like I said, for an absolute position to work, the parent container has to be have a position of relative. So I'm going to give this a position of relative. So this is position absolute right now. I'm going to give it a left of 0. This is the default it's going to have, and a top of 0. Right, this is what I'm going to have, and then I'll give it an animation name so that this keyframe will know the one it is pointing to. Animation name. Okay, and I'm going to say this one is what do I want to? I want to move it right, left, coaster, whatever. Let me just name it coaster. And then I'm going to have at keyframes. This is how it starts. Then the name of the animation that we are referring to, coaster, right? And then this. And there are different keyframes. You can have as many keyframes as possible. There are major 4. We have 0% keyframe, 25% keyframe, 50% keyframe, 75% keyframe, and 100% keyframe. I mean 5. These are the major 5. You can decide to use all of them or some of them. But in this case, I'll just make use of 3 or 4. I'm going to have 0% keyframe. This is where the animation starts from. And when it's at 25%, what it's going to do, I'm just going to say at 50%, I want it to do this. At 75%, I want it to do this. At 100%, I want it to do this. So this is where you add properties you want to change. Just like we have hover here, where we have properties. This is more like the default hover. It starts immediately on its own. You don't need to hover over anything. Once the page loads, the animation starts. So if you want it to wait a bit, you will have to add animation delay and give it some time before it starts. So if you add any properties here, this animation will start once the page loads. So at 0%, I want this left to still be the same thing. I want the left to be 0. I want the top to still be at 0% once it starts. Then I'm going to replicate this for these ones. I'm going to say here, here, and here. So for 50%, I'm going to say I want it to move 50, or no, 50 is too small. I want it to move 200 pixels away from the container, from the left. When we did left, right, top, and bottom in positioning, CSS positioning, you understand how things move. This is left. This is moving 200 pixels away from the left. This is top. If it moves away from the top, if it moves away from the right. So if I say 200 pixels to the right, it will move 200 pixels away from the right. Do you get me? Yes. So this perimeter determines where it starts moving from. This relative position determines where this ball starts moving from. If I didn't give this a position of relative, it will hang outside and it will be moving outside. Let me show you what I mean. Where is that position of relative that I gave it? I gave it a position. I gave it content, yes, here. So if I take this parent out, you see it's absolute and it's outside. It will take the default setting of the browser. The browser has its own position of relative, so it will definitely take that of the browser and not of the parent. But at this point, we want this to be inside of the parent, so we give the parent the position of relative, and that is how it works. So it's going to start counting from here. So if I say I want you to move 200 pixels from the left, it will count 200 pixels from the left. But if I say minus 200, it will start going minus 200 this way, because it is now in the negative point. But that's not what we are doing here. Let's just do the normal regular one that we know, which is 200 pixels from the left. And from the top, I also want it to move 300 pixels from the top. And then at 75, I want it to be have a top of 0 but a left of 350, no, 450. The container has a width. I'm trying to calculate based on this container. The container has a width of 500, a height of 500. So I'm trying to make sure that whatever I do, it doesn't go outside of that container, because it's actually lying absolute to the container, so you can move outside of it. Do you get? Okay,
Yes.
so this is what I have now. So if I say it should move, what am I missing? Left of this, right of this. The keyframe is roller coaster. Is this supposed to be capital letter? Okay, am I missing something? Keyframes of coaster. Ridges of this. Okay, this is just what I wanted to do. Move to the left and to the right. Animation name is this. Okay, it's not going well. Let me see why. Let me see why. What did I miss? Top left, right, 100. Okay. Animation. Okay. Animation iteration count is infinite. That is the problem. Let me go through this and see why this is not doing how I want it to go. Okay, I missed something very vital. I missed this property here. Animation time. Okay. Animation iteration count 6 animation duration, yeah, is going to be for 6 seconds. Yeah, let's see, 5 seconds. Okay, so I missed this animation duration. It seems I didn't add it here to this class. I have animation, how long I want the animation to last. So it cannot just start doing anything on it. It's supposed to know how long it will take. What this thing is this duration tells it is how long it will take to complete one cycle of of whatever it is I tell it to do. How long is it going to take to move from here, up here, and down here? And then how many times it's going to do that? So let me say I want it to do this just 2 times. I'll reload this page. It goes this way, comes back here. To go back again, goes this way, and it stops, because I said it should just do it 2 times. So this duration is how long is it going to take to move from here. So it's going to complete one cycle in 5 seconds. If I want it to be slower, I'll increase the time. If I want it to be faster, I'll reduce the time. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Alright, so this left is a bit too much, so I'll reduce it to 400 pixels, and I'll increase this to 350 pixels. This thing I'm doing is at 50%. This is 50%, like half of the time here is at 50%. So at 50%, it has a top from this point down to this point. Like, this is, I told it to move 350 pixels away from this top, so it's going to move this ball, probably to be here, at 50%, and then it will be 0% at 70. 70 is around here and 100 is around here. This is 0%. Around here should be probably 25%. Here is 50%. Here is 75%. And back this way is 100%. I'm not very certain on how the calculations are made, but that's just like a rough estimate of how we got this. I want it to be very, very clear. So this is 2 seconds, not 2. And I want it to happen probably 7 times. What did I change? Okay, iteration time. Change it to infinite. It starts immediately, goes, and it continues going, because this one doesn't have any time attached to it. It's going to continue to thy kingdom comes. But there's something that happens immediately we load our page. It starts. Immediately we load our page, it starts. So if I don't want it to start immediately, I'll just add an animation delay. Animation delay of probably 5 or 3 seconds. Let me reload this page. We wait for 3 seconds and then it starts. You get? So this is basically how animation works. So if you notice that when I was starting, I missed this duration and it was not working. So it has to have the number of, like, the particular time in which it will complete a one full cycle. If it doesn't have that, it's not going to start. And if I give this a wrong name and I say this thing won't work, because there is nothing that is controlling it. There is nothing that is telling it where to move and how to move and how far to move. Do you get? So if you make a mistake in the name and you're not calling the name of this animation, the animation name that we have here does not match the one we have in the keyframes, it's not going to work. Hope that is clear. So I'm going to add another keyframe here, and that will be the last one for today. I'm going to add another one here. So in this box, okay, we have another box B here. I'm just going to replicate this and give it a different name. This is going to be box B. This is going to have a different background color so that you can tell the difference. Okay, this is good. And then in this case, I want it to be at the bottom, so I'm going to move it to the right. I want it to be exactly the opposite of this one, and this one is going to be at the bottom. So I'm going to also replicate this. See, I'm going to go down and paste it. So the name of this one would be up coaster or whatever. Up coaster, right? And then I'm going to have up coaster here. In this case, I'll have right instead of left, and here I'll have bottom instead of top, because I want it to give me exactly the opposite of the other one. And in this case, I'll have bottom. And you can add other properties though. It's not just moving it left, right, center. You can add other properties. If you don't want the animation to move, you just want to change the background color, change the width, change the height, you can add all of those things. Probably let me add it to this one. I'll say when it gets to this point, I want the border radius to, okay, instead of border radius, let me change, I want the width to be it has a width of 100 pages, so I'll give it a width of 400 pages. So let's see how it's going to work. There are two now. And then duration. Okay, it has a delay. I don't want this delay. I don't want this delay either. Has a position of absolute, has this with up poster. Okay, so that everything is clear. Okay. Can you notice what is happening? When it's 50%, the width increases. When it is 50%, the width increases and it goes back to normal. When it is 50, it increases and it goes back to normal. So if I get rid of this width increment here, you see that it's exactly the way this one moves, but it moves in the opposite direction. I'm just using right, left, top and bottom to control it. It moves in the opposite direction. So you can decide to do anything to it. I can decide to change the background color of this one and say at not at 75%, I want the background color to be, I want something nice. Chat chartreuse. Let's use this. So at 75%, it changes. Can you see it? At
Yes.
75%, it changes. So that's exactly how this stuff works. So this is how animation works. So if you want to like put this inside of your browser, probably you can just make this container, like take the border out so that you won't notice it's inside of a border. No, okay. Take the border out and then it works like this. So when you see it, it will look fanciful to you. You can add other things. You can move it to this extreme end or this extreme end, or you can just be floating it up and down. You can just do anything you want with it. That is how animation works. And it mustn't be moving. You can just put other properties apart from left, right, or whatever. That's how animation works. But it can only move if it's in an absolute position. If it's not in an absolute position, it will not be able to move because it will respond to the top, left, right, and bottom. So, but if you don't want it to move, you can decide not to add that position of absolute and then change whatever it is you want to change and add your keyframes. So that is basically it. Do you have any questions? Are there things that you're confused about? Is there somewhere you want me to explain further?
No, no.
So how is the OPay coming up? Have you been able to like get extra stuff on it? Have you been able to like do
Yes, yeah,
anything with it?
I'm finishing that's that image you saved. The last one you did. I'm finishing it up so I can so that I continue with others.
Alright, no problem. No problem. Just go through this and in our next class I believe we should be submitting our assignments and then let me see how far you people have gone with the OPay and if you've been able to complete entire the entire page. So that should be your assignment. So by Monday, I believe we'll go through it and then see how far you've gone. Alright, that should be all. Have a great day.